My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. You're gonna do it. Do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and beer.
Years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Hey, community policing, right? What about community dispatching?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset.
Right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here on Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, the Raspy Dispatcher. So excited to be chatting with you all today, bringing you a familiar face. If you're on the conference scene, I'm sure you have seen them. If you have watched any of our old podcast episodes, they've been on before. I've also been on some interviews with them on their circuit, so they are definitely familiar. Our guest today is stepping into a new part of her dispatching career, branching out, creating a new consulting company under the headset with Halcyon. Our guest today, Halcyon Frank.
Hello.
Hello, Halcyon.
How's it going?
Oh, it's a going. It's Monday. I worked my long week this week, and for those who don't know, my long week is 3 12s and an 8 on every other Sunday. And let me tell you, some weeks it doesn't feel long, but this week it was long. Okay. I was like driving home, like thinking about like what reels to make and stuff. And I was like, I think the reel I'm going to make is like, I don't always like my job. Like I need people to know that. It's like, and it's okay that I don't always like my job. It's still a wonderful job, but like 5% of the time, sometimes I don't like it.
Yeah, at 6 a.m. at the end of a long week, I don't like it. And also I would challenge people and be like, okay, but like I know you love your job, but in that moment, does anybody like their job?
Right? Like just I told my sergeant, I was like, I check my bank account every day to see if I have to come here. You know what I mean? Like maybe one day there's going to be a mysterious deposit that I'm not going to ask questions about. Nope. And I'll be like, I'm not coming to work. I won't be there, but alas, not yet. So.
Well, I'll cross my fingers for you that can happen for you. I'll be believing.
I so appreciate that. And for the folks who don't know you, haven't seen your lovely face at a conference or across the socials in the dispatch world, who are you?
That's a great question. Sometimes I'm like, who doesn't know me? Only because I feel like I travel so much and I get like tired of me that I'm like, you're telling me everybody else isn't tired of me. I am Halcyon Frank. As you mentioned, I've jumped into a new adventure this month. So created Under the Headset with Halcyon, which is part of or is my training consulting business for 911. So stepping out onto my own, doing, the training classes, training products, as well as the training program consulting and anything that kind of aligns with that stuff. So it's month 1. So far, so good. But I'm really excited just to continue my journey in the industry because I've been able to do and work with so many great people, do so much great stuff that, it's just like another chapter. And so I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. And so what made you want to do this? Want to venture? Because as we know, creating new is like hard. It's not easy. So what made you go, I'm this crazy. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do this.
I think it just was, I was that crazy. It's a little naivety. It's a little stupidity. It's a little believing I can do whatever I put my mind to. And then also just being like incredibly passionate about the topic and the topic of 911 and public safety communications and training and all those things. So just a little bit of mix of all of that stuff. And I'm like, why not? Let's do it. Like there's no rules in a sense. Like there's nothing that says your career has to follow like XYZ. So I'm like, let's just, continue to DIY this career of mine, see how this goes. And if anyone sees an application come across their desk for their dispatch center with my name on it, it means it's not going well. But so far, good.
Because we're always looking for more dispatchers.
Right.
I've told someone recently that I was like, look, I'll have to work here. I can work somewhere else. Like,
Got good and bad things.
Everybody's hiring. I got options.
Yeah, there's definitely options out there. And on a serious note, so if it's not going well, if you're like, I have this, that, and the other thing in my center that doesn't align with me or isn't going well, like, don't forget, like, if you are a quality worker and you know your stuff and you're willing to put in the work, like, you have options.
You do. Heck yeah.
Say that with a disclaimer of like, I'm not telling anybody to quit. I'm just saying you have options.
Hey man, not all centers are built the same. I just went to Aurora, Colorado, and they got this massage chair. They got a disco ball. Not all centers are built the same. And I'm not saying go to centers because of the massage chair, but I sat in this massage chair house.
Somebody said
I told them
from Aurora, I was like, rumor has it she's still sitting in that massage chair.
Oh my God, no. 1,000%. And they let me like go into the little room by myself or whatever. So I was like filming in there and stuff. And I get in the massage chair and it's like all engulfing. It's like a $5,000 massage chair. It's like legit.
Nice.
And I'm not saying I looked up the price, but I did. And so it's like, it's legit. So I'm like in it and you're like, I'm being coddled by this, it's a cuddle session. And then it starts going. I was like, wow, this is really nice. And then all of a sudden it kind of gripped my cheeks because it's a good massage chair. It's really massaging. And I went back into their little office and I was like, the way that chair just lifted my backside was not expecting that. I was not expecting that. But genuinely, not all centers are made equal, and the culture there was wonderful. The vibes, so yeah, we have options out here in dispatch. They're hiring.
Yeah.
Lateraling is a beast, but if you find the right center, it's worth it.
Gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Hey, big facts. But I wanted to talk about one of your newest babies that was born out of your new venture, and I think they are so cool. Are these lovely training decks that you sent me. And these two here go together, highest priority and dispatch it. And then you have a third one, which I believe is near and dear to your heart, which is the trainer edition. Tell us a little bit about this and, the tools and how it all came to be.
So I wish I had like a really nice story about this, how I thought of it. It was this, like nice thing. I can't quite remember exactly how it came up, but what they are is training tools, right? So highest priority, you have 50 different, kind of short, very short situations, if you will, more than a scenario. You get a call for a medical emergency while you have an officer wanting to run someone, something else. And so you can give those to trainees and say, what will you handle first? How are you prioritizing this? Because we all know that's a huge part of our job is the urgency, but also within that, then prioritizing. If we really break it down, it's all about prioritizing. What do we do first, second, third, fourth? We just do it at like what feels like lightning speed sometimes. So 50 different situations to go through. You can give the trainee 5 at a time. You can give them 3. You can, I guess, give them all 50 if you wanted to really overwhelm them. But just an easy thing too. And where you're not searching for a piece of paper, you're not searching for a computer file. It's just a deck. You can take it with you, use it in a group, use it one-on-one. And so then along with that, in that duo comes the dispatch it, which is 25 scenarios. It's got a little bit more information. That you can then have trainees practice, how would you dispatch this on the radio? Or maybe they're working on call taking. So it's a question of, okay, here's the information you have. What other questions might you ask? And again, because it just makes it a little more handy than having to search for that paper or computer file and a little more colorful and fun, I think. And then the other one, the What Would You Do Trainer Edition, I think is really good tool, especially if you're working with a group of trainers, because it's just different situations you would come across as a trainer. So, for instance, there's scenarios like, you give your trainee feedback and they become visibly upset every time. How are you handling that? Or, something along with they're not understanding this concept. What would you do differently, or what other strategies might you try? And so just something for trainers to help prepare them for those things that we know will most likely happen, and to get to thinking about that, especially either before they've started, or even if you're an experienced trainer, kind of challenging yourself if it's something you haven't experienced yet, to see how you would handle that. So it's just a good training tool. I think I'm biased, obviously, but I've had a really good response so far, which always feels good. Just another tool in our toolkit, if you will, because I feel like we can never have enough of those. And I also there will be a fourth deck coming out probably in the next month. But I'll just let that linger as far as what that might be.
No, genuinely, these are amazing. And as you're talking, I'm like looking through, just to give folks an example here, the highest priority are I would say shorter, right?
Yeah.
More really like no details, like this is just like what it is. So let's play, Halcyon.
Oh boy.
Which one would you dispatch first? A theft from a store and the suspect is still on location,
Okay.
or fire department requesting traffic control for a large building fire?
I think I have to go theft and the suspect is still on location, because that might be the biggest threat to safety, right? And the
Okay.
other, that's the good part, I think, too, is then you can really have your trainees verbalize why they're picking that. So
Mhm.
instead of just, oh, my trainee's not understanding prioritizing, they can really start to verbalize why they're putting it in that order.
Mhm.
And then we can, as trainers, have a bit of more information, kind of an insight into their thinking, and go, oh, they're thinking that this would be more important because of XYZ, and we need to shift that to this. Now, some people may be watching and be like, no, I would do it differently. Well, if you can verbalize it, within your agency, uh,
Yeah.
there's
Mhm.
not necessarily, I think there's definitely some, if you put them together, there's like a right or wrong answer, if you will. Like, obviously one is like take a theft report for something that happened yesterday versus a car accident. Like, your car accident is going to take priority.
Yeah.
But you can kind of get as tricky or as easy, if you will, as you want. So
Yeah.
as your trainees progressing, you can definitely kind of make them think a little harder versus in the beginning it might be a little easier. But I also didn't realize you were going to put me on the spot. So.
Well, the reason that I did that was A, because I wanted to put you on the spot, but B, it does prove to the point that I love about these cards, which is that you can make them for your agency, right? Like, your agency might have a policy like we're going to fires request first because they're an agency and da 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 da, or
Yeah.
we go to in progress thefts first. Like an in progress theft at my newer agency is a much higher priority than at my at my last agency. Like, we're not going. Like, we don't have time because we're dealing
Right.
with shootings. Like that's
Yeah.
just. But at this other agency, like that's a high priority air quotes call. So with the way you made these so generic, so broad, allows for those
Yeah.
conversations, really like making it so the trainee understands the language of your specific department rather than you making these cards to reflect how your agency has trained you to do it. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And so there's definitely enough of the situations, like in the highest priority, that if you're only law or only fire, you still have plenty to deal with, and some that you can just kind of build off of, if you will, to make it a little more applicable to your agency. And along with the dispatch it. So there's some medical, there's some fire, there's some law enforcement. It's a little bit of everything. So it's not, that someone's going to get it and be like, oh, we only do law enforcement, I don't want to get something, or we only do EMS. There's a good mix of stuff. So, and I think especially with like those things, it doesn't necessarily even matter like what your agency dispatches per se, because it's more about, okay, learning how to prioritize, like what's the greater threat to safety, property, life, whatever it is. And so maybe you don't dispatch the other disciplines, but it's still a way to help your trainees start to think about, what is the higher priority? What are the more significant events, versus the less significant? And, how would I dispatch something maybe if I don't even dispatch law, but I'm still learning to put location and then what important information first and those types of things. So still a good teaching tool, even if maybe you don't dispatch, specific disciplines.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to put you on the spot again because I love these cards, genuinely. This is a dispatch it scenario, so it's a little longer, a little more detail. And again, as a trainer, you can make this work however you want to work. So I'm going to keep it simple for Halcyon. I'm going to ask her from this scenario what her type code would be. How would her agency, which is going to look different than mine, what language do they speak? What would they tell the computer that this call goes under? You ready, Halcyon?
Ready as I'll ever be.
A caller, first name Michael, is reporting that his lawnmower was taken from behind his garage. He last saw it yesterday before noon. He lives at 1234 Main Street and can be contacted by phone or by an officer coming to his home.
I believe we would put that under theft, if I'm remembering right. I only work like a couple days a month.
So if anyone's listening from her agency,
in the moment, I would figure it out, but on the spot,
we'd probably do a theft. I think we'd technically classify it as a 459, which I hate. But whatever, pretty much like theft from house, even though they didn't enter the house type of thing. But yeah, so see, even there, it's different, right? So between our two agencies, you put it as a theft, we put it as a 459. We're still talking about the same type of thing, right? And for you working with your trainee, type codes, I would say, is the biggest advice that I give to new dispatchers is like the quicker you learn your type codes, like the easier life is for you because everything makes sense when you understand the language that the department's speaking. So those are just a couple examples of like how you can use these awesome tools. Again, there are so many ways you could use them, but I do want to highlight your training edition ones as well, because I think we forget about the trainers often.
Oh, yeah.
I think oftentimes, even past the CTO, our supervisors, our managers promote into roles because, they've been there, they know how to do the
great
job.
Dispatcher.
They're great dispatchers, but sometimes we forget to train them how to be managers and how to be supervisors.
Yes.
There's a gap sometimes. So the fact that you took the time to think of them, I think is amazing. And it's so cool.
I couldn't not think of them. Those are my people. And I think we do, right? Like people are great frontline dispatchers. So they get promoted to CTOs or supervisors or managers, and we don't take the time to invest. As teaching with Chris Inman, our trainer instructor intensive workshop, and last month in Missouri, and we had about 40 or 50 people in the class, and I think at least half raised their hand when I asked, did you get put into trainer and then maybe take a CTO class and nothing else? And there was a good amount of people who are like, yeah. And most people, if I said, did anybody ever tell you like how your brain actually operates when you learn? And they were like, no. So there's
why would I need to know that, Halcyon?
I don't know why you would need to know how somebody actually learns to be a trainer. I know it's a wild thought. Yes, but I have found it very helpful to know those things, which is why I talk about it so much, because it's definitely a gap that is missed in dispatch for sure.
And some of I'm not going to make you answer these questions, but these are just two examples of that come from the trainer edition deck. Your fellow dispatcher is interested in becoming a trainer and comes to you for advice. What advice would you give them to help them develop the skill they need to be a successful trainer?
I would just like to say the answer to that is not run, is not don't do it, is not. I know we will jokingly say this, and this is just a pet peeve of mine. but I just time and time again, I see people in Facebook groups or even in conversations. Somebody says, "Oh, I want to be a dispatcher. Oh, I want to be a trainer." And people are like, "Oh, run. Don't do it. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Like, run. Ha ha ha. I'm just kidding." And I'm like, but you said that. And so now they're like, "Well, why would they even joke about that? Is it not that good?" And so
Yeah.
we really have to be better about not shutting people down as well
Mhm.
before they
Mhm.
even get into it. And like,
Yeah.
yes, it's a joke, it's funny, but after a while, we say it so much that it's not really funny anymore, and it's
Yeah.
concerning that that's kind of the initial reaction that people have when someone wants to be a dispatcher or a trainer is to be like, "Run, quit."
Yeah.
And again, all centers are not created equal, right? So yes, some centers, you get some additional vacation pay, or you get a monetary reward as far as like a raise hourly when you're actually training. And I can't think of the word for it right now.
Mhm.
Um, and there's incentives there. And then some centers, there's not. And in a perfect world, there would be additional because it's obviously additional responsibility for sure.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
think too, at the end of the day as well, like we're training our new coworkers. So to approach it like it's a joke is not a good approach because these people are going to be our coworkers. They're going to be the ones that cover for us when we want to go on vacation. They're going to be the ones that we're looking to when we need help on a call, in a serious call, those types of things. So also just being conscientious about what we're saying then when people ask questions like that.
Yeah.
And when you asked me that, you didn't expect me to go in like a whole rant about
Right,
it, but
you didn't have to answer it. But no, it's true. I think what's more productive and what's that conversation should look like is talking about the realities of the job, right? Because that's kind of what the run is, I think, leaning towards is like some of these realities aren't great for
not
some
glamorous.
and some of the realities are great for some people. Some people are like, I'm trying to fill my bag. I need money. I love me some mandated overtime. Like that was me when I first started. I was
Yeah.
like coming into the comm center. I lived like 5 minutes. I could walk to my comm center. I could see the tower from my backyard. I was so close. So I'd be there at like 3 in the morning just to do like 3 to 6 because there was no commute. And I needed to pay for my couch. That was actually the reason I bought it. My first big girl purchase was a $1,500 couch and I had to pay for it. So
That'll do it. That'll do it.
I was working all this crazy overtime and that was going on 7 years ago. And I'm not, no, I'll take one shift, a,
Yeah.
a, a paycheck. I'll be good, like, but
Yeah.
back then I'd try to get like fucking 40 hours of, of
Well,
overtime on a check.
and
But,
the thing is, like, so many people will do that.
mm-hmm.
And, like, sorry, talking over you there, but so many people will do that. But I think too, we have to remember, like, that's not healthy either because I was the same way. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, 10 days in a row, easy,
Eh,
no problem.
yeah.
I have no life.
Yeah.
But like we shouldn't be glorifying that, and we
Exactly.
do. Like I
Mhm.
just again, somebody's talking about, I worked this much overtime in a pay period, and kind of like I don't think the intention is to glamorize it, but we kind of do, or we kind of compare like traumas and how much we work, and it just is not. There's nothing healthy about that. There's nothing healthy about that for us on a personal level. There's nothing safe about that. And
Mhm.
I think it speaks to then also goes right back to training and that what is your center like and the fact that you have to work that much. Like, are you that short staffed? You know, who's letting you work that much, honestly? Because I think at a certain point we're responsible for everyone else. And somebody should be
Mhm.
stepping in and saying, no, dude, this is not healthy. Like, you may think it's okay, but I, as someone who cares, I'm gonna step in and say, like, we can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
you've got to take a break. Um, and or then are people being trained or not trained well enough that they're not able to help as well. So many things. So
Yeah.
many things.
Well, if they don't have these cards, they're definitely not being trained well enough. So you need to
True
grab
that.
these cards ASAP, genuinely, because they really are awesome. Like I told you when we talked recently, I'm really mad. I didn't think of it first because they're so
Sorry.
beneficial. They're so cool.
Yeah.
Um, you can just have them available in your center. Like the trainer doesn't even need to be around, you want some time away from your trainee. tell
Yeah.
them to go sit and look at these cards and, test themselves. So there's
Yeah,
just
for
so many
sure.
ways to use them. So many ways.
Yes.
Um, what are the other things that Under the Headset is doing, offering,
Yeah.
for folks
All the
who
things.
want to utilize your services?
Yeah, all the things. So along with those, have ebooks along with related to training, with some digital products, stickers, those kinds of things. But then also just doing the on-site training classes as well. So going to centers, whoever wants to host the class, different topics, complacency, the be an encourager class, being an encourager in the comm center or in the workplace, depending on, what kind of space you're working in, as well as training, whether that's instructor development or kind of I have training as a team sport where we talk about kind of everybody's role in the center and for training, even if you're not an actual trainer. And then the other big one that I really love doing is building trust on both sides of the console. So that one is really focused on developing relationships between dispatch and field responders, because that's also kind of a gap. We can get really isolated and siloed, if you will, in our own respective positions, and we kind of forget what the person on the other side of the radio is going through, or vice versa. So definitely some relationship building that can be done there. So the on-site classes, as well as a training program consulting. So whether that's you just want someone to look at your program and, say, here's some recommendations to improve it, or, you're in a place where you're like, we really have nothing. We got to build this from the ground up, help. Anything from the recommendations to just helping build a training program from the ground up and everything in between, I can help with. So it's kind of the main things, really anything to do with training, though, obviously I'm really passionate about, and dispatch in general. But those are definitely the things that I focus on.
Amazing. And what do you think? I mean, I know you personally, so I know how passionate you are about training and making that experience fruitful for everyone who is involved in that process. What makes your vision, your way of doing things different than maybe another consulting company or another entity that's out there?
Yeah, I don't know that it's like a huge, just black and white. But I know for myself, very focused on actually aligning our training programs and what we do with how we learn how our brain operates, which is something we have not done in the past. A lot of people hear me talk about hand-me-down training in public safety. I was trained this way, so I train the next person this way, who trains the next person. And what we're kind of training then for is very specific situations, right? So a lot of times I see people who are like, okay, I've tried what I know with this person. What do I do now? What other things I can try? Where if we approached it from more of a how our brains actually operated, and how we as human beings learn, we could pivot a little easier, because instead of just knowing, okay, I'm going to do this activity to teach this, we would know, okay, I'm going to do this activity because XYZ. And so if that doesn't work, I now know how to pivot and do something else, because I know the underlying mechanisms and methods and strategies that are going on, that it's not just about using one specific activity. It's because I know that this activity addresses this, and we can do something different if that one doesn't work to also address it. So that really is my approach, is really making sure it's the best practices, the most up-to-date like research about how we learn, to whereas a lot of times I see a lot of programs, or even recommendations from other places that are kind of antiquated and they don't align with that stuff. And we've learned a lot more about how we as humans learn. And there's a lot more we can apply and implement into our training.
That's awesome. I know that it's a heck of a venture, and I've got to see you teach and experience it, and you're really good. You're really good
Really nerd out on this stuff.
at doing this.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I just, there's so much room for us to grow, which is kind of exciting. Like, it's not that, oh, we're doing this wrong, we need to change everything. so much as I feel it's like, oh, we have so much room to grow and expand and do things differently and do things better. Like, this is exciting. Like, we've done some things really well and we've gotten our industry to this point, and that's fantastic. But also super exciting to know that, like, we have room to grow and develop and do even more
Yeah.
instead of just like, oh, well, it's okay. Like, but we need to do better. It's like, no, it's exciting. Like, we have plenty of room to expand what we're doing, to look at things differently, to try new things, which, yeah, to me is more exciting.
Well, how do folks reach out? How do they get in contact with you? How do they learn more about the awesome things you got going on?
Pretty much anywhere at this point. Facebook, Instagram, Under the Headset with Halcyon, or website, undertheheadset.org are kind of the main places to find information about me or the services. And then also Halcyon at undertheheadset.org if you just want to get in touch with me directly. Or feels like your neighborhood conference at this point. You don't have a ton on the fall docket, but there's a good number of them. So I'm really looking forward to getting out in APCO next month and then kick off kind of the fall conference season with all the different states.
Awesome. I think we're both going to be at Kansas, right? You're going to Kansas?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll be able to link up there, maybe make some reels. Love a good reel.
Yeah.
Well, Halcyon, thank you so much for coming onto the show. And I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked you many times before. But I think as we grow and as we change and as we do new crazy things, our advice might shift a little bit. So, what advice would you give someone who's considering a career as a dispatcher?
I think I'm going to go back to there are no rules. So, learn, grow, get in the industry, but don't feel like you have to go be a trainer, you have to go be a supervisor, or move up a ladder in that way. You can do that development kind of what I call horizontally. So be a frontline and then learn tactical dispatching, CIT, all the things. If you're happy, being at the console, answering the phone, that's 100% okay. Or, if you're looking further down the line or other opportunities, again, there's no rules. Go to the private sector. I still work part-time in a center because I do enjoy it. So there's always balance you can find like that. But don't feel like you're stuck, that you just go be a dispatcher and then you'll be a trainer and then you'll be a supervisor. Look at all the options. And then if you really fall in love with it and are like passionate / borderline crazy, you can, someday start your own company and, cross your fingers and hope that it works.
Amazing. Thank you, Halcyon, so much for jumping on here.
Yeah.
Congrats on your new venture and good luck.
Thanks. I need that.
I'll be right back with you. All right, everybody. Another amazing episode here on Let's Talk Dispatch. Halcyon, genuinely, thank you so much for jumping on and telling everybody about your new business, which is really just your passions, kind of repackaged in this new setup. Again, if you did not grab these cards on the first push, you need to do so, like ASAP, because they genuinely are awesome tools. And I'm not just saying that because I like Halcyon. I'm saying that because they are genuinely good trading tools that I have not seen anyone produce yet. So awesome. Head to undertheheadset.org in order to grab those, as well as additional resources, ebooks, and check out the training she's offering. So until next time, everybody, stay raspy. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Dispatch podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, or maybe even submitting your own story, you can do all that and more at theraspydispatcher.com. Until next time, stay raspy.